You know, I might just get done today. Welcome back, Sawmill, everybody. My name is Bill. This is Pirate Solutions Forestry, and we are continuing, since it turned into such a beautiful day from such a crappy rainy morning, we're continuing to cut Paul Miskovskys Spruce order. I cut a few logs while not on camera just to get through some of them. Some of them were real weird and spiny and took a lot to trim them down and get them turned and so on and so forth. I got quite a good pile of material going on here. I've got 2x12s, 2x10s. I've got 4x4s. I've got 6x6s. I've got a bunch of 1x stock. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to edge off. There'll be 1x12s, 1x10s, 1x8s, 1x6s, a couple of 1x4s. Some 2x4s are in here too. So he's getting a nice pile of lumber. And it's still, so far, it's still working out under a buck a board foot, which is just terrific. Everything's coming out great. And I kind of used up that Silvertip Turbo 7 wood miser band that I was running earlier. Now I'm running a resharp Stellicut. And I almost hate to use them, to be honest with you. The reason that I almost hate to use them is I hate to use them up. They are such a joy to run. They're a little stiffer. The Stellite insert design, I think, makes them cut ridiculously flat and smooth and predictable. They cut straight even when they start to get dull. I sharpen mine over to 7 degrees from 10 because I can only get them in 10. And I run them all in 7. I was watching a video, Cooks Sawmill, John Cook, the other day, and I think his first name's John, I'm pretty sure. They were talking about sawmill blades. So you throw a video up about sawmill blades for me, I'm in. I'll watch the whole thing. I don't care if it's 3 hours long. Hey guys, I wanted to do a little video insert here instead of a voiceover to explain something to you. First of all, I am going to link the video that Robert and Tim Cook did that I'm referencing in this part of the video in the description below. I tried to figure out how to put it into the video so you could just click on it. Apparently iMovie doesn't do that. But I want to clarify what my exception is to what he says in the video. First of all, if you have a mill under 40 horsepower, you should watch his video. It is designed right around low to mid horsepower sawmills and bands and what you should run and what you shouldn't run. What you can run to make your mill cut better. There's a lot of great information in there. And they have been doing this a long time. They've done a lot of testing. Like I say in the video, I've never run Cooks bands, but I've run a lot of other ones. So I've tested these Stellicut bands. They were given to me originally at the logging show last year in Vermont. And when Trevor and Brian told me what these bands would do, I basically dismissed it. I basically laughed at them. Said, yeah, sure, but thanks for the free bands. I'll try them out. And now after I did my testing on them, I was cutting a decent sized timber frame, so I was cutting a lot of material. And I decided that, hey, let's run these Stellicut bands. If they cut like they say they do, I'll be able to get a bunch of this material out without band changes. And if they say they cut as flat as they do, which I did see in Vermont, then I'll be producing a pretty good product too. So I tested them out. And what I found was versus Wood-Mizer Silvertip Turbo 7s and Sabertooths, your standard bands, I was getting 10 times the life out of them. You can go back and watch my videos where I tested them and I calculated out board feet and so on and so forth before I started sharpening them. But I wanted to clarify that because I don't want to come off as that I'm bashing Cooks Sawmill here or Tim Cook or Robert or anyone. The Cooks they produce a beautiful, great sawmill, and whenever one of their videos comes up, I watch it because I trust what they say and I'm interested in their knowledge. This particular video, he called out the Stellicut bands, Stellite bands, Stellite insert bands specifically by name. And I want to promote the Stellicut bands because we're coming back into cutting season, and I think they'll help you out, especially for the price. As we, get out of the bad winter here in the Northeast, and hopefully wherever you are too, and God bless you if you're in Ontario, God bless you with the winter you've had up there. I hope you're cutting soon. If you don't watch Sawing with Sandy and see what happened to his property, it's pretty heartbreaking. They've had a hell of a winter up there. All my friends at Norwood have had a hell of a winter. And I hope you're back cutting soon. But I want to promote the bands because they cut better, they cut longer. And basically, like I say in the video, when you start calculating out how far these bands go, they don't cost you money. They cost you nothing. So I wanted to get this in. I'm going to put it in the video right about here. This is just after I correct myself from calling Tim Cook John Cook, which is that little purple thing right there. And I'm going to stick it in right here somewhere in a dead spot so that you can see this just for an explanation that would be, I think, is worth more than a voiceover because I think it's important. And I do my best to explain it in the video, but I think this will help. It'll give some context, and I am going to link the Cook's video in the description on this video when it comes out. So thank you for the watch. I appreciate it as always, and let's get back to the video. Going through talking about bands, he badmouthed insert bands. Now, I want to preface this by saying Mr. Cook has been doing this his entire life. I am in no way, shape, or form going to try to compare my knowledge of sawmilling with his. I may know more about chainsaw milling than he does. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that he's ever really done it, and I did it for years. One thing that I do know, and I'm an expert in, is cutting tool geometry, sharpening cutting tools of all types. Everything from hand saws to hand planes to chisels to chipper knives for big chippers to specialized knives for cutting paper to chef's knives to your everyday carry pocket knife to tooling for my lathes, lathe tool sharpening, all that stuff. Chainsaw sharpening. I'm an expert in sharpening edge tools and somewhat in geometry of why you do what you do and what you're looking for and what you want and what'll make it better and what won't, which is why I sharpen my bands to 7 degrees, my Stellicut bands. He knows more about this than I do, but I will tell you this. I have tested these bands against Wood Miser Silvertip Turbo 7s and the Sabertooth bands from Norwood. And ladies and gentlemen, there is no comparison. Stellicut bands cut flatter, longer, smoother, 10 times longer. So I'm not talking about a little thing here. I'm talking about 300 to 400 board feet on a typical Sabertooth or a Wood Miser Silvertip Turbo 7. And I'm talking about 3,000 board foot without sharpening it, 5,000 board foot with one light face grind over to 7 on a Stellite insert band. And don't get me started on carbide bands. I've seen testing on carbide bands where guys have cut 5,000 board feet on them easily without sharpening them. So Mr. Cook's big hang-up was the fact that the insert's as wide as the kerf. And he didn't like that at all. He likes the splayed tooth design. And Stellite kind of has both. It has, the insert that's as wide as the kerf and then the splayed tooth design behind it without a raker tooth. I hope he will test some bands. Now, he says he's run them all, and he probably has. Now, and to be honest, I haven't run Cook's bands, so I have to say that. But the Stellicut bands, they basically cost you nothing. It's a complete home run. One thing, if you haven't watched his video, you should watch it because he does talk a lot about 1.25 inch versus 1.5 inch versus 2 inch. And one thing that I've been telling people in the Norwood forums is do not switch these mills, especially in HD38, and there's a reason for that. But the 36s and the 38s and the smaller mills, don't switch over to 1.5-inch bands, guys. Don't do it. Unless you're running big horsepower and big band wheels, they don't turn those bands well. I set up an HD38 up the street. Some friends of mine bought a brand new HD38 all hydraulic because of my mill. They had another mill. They couldn't get it to cut right. I went over there. There were tons of problems with it. It was a homemade job. And he spent a lot of money on it. And after I helped them out, he went and bought an HD38 full hydraulic. They put it together. I went over there one day because they were having trouble cutting, and they wanted me to come over and check everything out. They were running Lennox bands, 1.5-inch Lennox bands. And because of the smaller band wheels, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the HD36 and the 38 run the same exact identical band. However, the band wheels on the 38 are smaller than the band wheels on the 36 because of the way that they opened up the throat and the geometry. They had to make the band wheel smaller. They don't turn an 1.5-inch band well. So much so that when I was tracking it, I almost couldn't spin it by hand. And I was like, what the heck do you have on here? They would go into the cut, slow into the cut on auto feed, and it would stall the mill. And they have a bigger engine than I do. I don't stall this mill. I almost can't stall the mill. They would stall the mill, literally stall the blade in the cut. You know, a foot in, it would just stop. And I pulled out one of my bands, gave it to them to run, and they called me up an hour later and said, it was all the band. There's no comparison. Your band's cut so much better. We just ordered, 5 boxes. The boss over there, Tommy Steele, he had been on forums and looking at, what's the best band and everybody. And what he came up with is that Lennox is the best band for the money. And he thought that running 1.5-inch would cut flatter. And Mr. Cook says flat out, on the smaller horsepower mills, say under 25 horsepower, never run 1.5 inch. They're not powerful enough to run them. It will wave around and it'll be worse. It'll cut worse than 1.25 inch. And some of the big LT70s, I don't know if some of you guys know this, but the LT70s, some of those run 1.25 inch bands. People run 1.25 inch bands on those. And Mr. Cook talks a lot about it and how he'll have guys call up that are having all kinds of trouble with the mill. And one of the first things that he asks is, what are you running for a band? And a lot of times he switches them down to 1.25 inch, and they have to buy new roller guides, and they're not happy about it. But once they switch to the 1.25 inch and the 1.25 inch roller guides, he said their problems go away. So you guys in these mills, in this horsepower, run 1.25 inch. Just, you're going to have to trust me on that. They bend easier around the bands. Run them in the 042. If you want to go up to like 046 or 050, you're still going to have those same problems with them not wanting to turn. You don't have enough horsepower to make them turn. And the stiffer bands and the bigger bands, when you bend them around smaller wheels, they're going to crack faster. I have never broken a sawmill band from use. I've broken them because I've hit something. I've thrown them off the band wheels. I've had a chunk of wood with a bark inclusion grab the band, smash into the roller guide, bend the roller guide, pretzel up the band. I've done everything to a band. I've never broken one from use where it just snapped in the middle of a cut. I have broken one coiling it, a Stellicut band. I was coiling it up, after using it, and the weld was right in between my hands, and I did my coil job like this, and the weld snapped. But I've never broken one in the wood. And I know a lot of guys will run them all the way to break. I know some sawmills that just run them to break. They run them, and as they start to not cut very true, they start cutting less precious stuff. So they'll cut pallet wood, they'll cut cross ties, things like that aren't so important, and they'll just run them until they break. I wanted to give Mr. Cook a shout out about the 1.5 inch versus 1.25 inch thing, because I think he's absolutely 100% right. I don't think he's given the Stellite bands a fair shake, because in my testing on the Stellite bands, there's no comparison. It's game over. It's been done. I've done it. I've videoed it. I've tested them. I've run them both at 10 and 7. I prefer to run them at 7 because I'm a little lower horsepower. And 10 times as long, guys. 10 times as long. So, and they cut flatter. So, you know, I don't really know what to say, but I wanted to get that out. Push the Stellicut bands as we're starting to get into spring here. I've got 4 brand new boxes in there that I haven't broken into yet. I've got a bunch of sharpening to do tomorrow. We got some rain coming in over the next couple of days. I don't even know how many bands, 20, 30 bands up on my bench upstairs that I want to sharpen. I want to keep running them and not bust into my new bands because I have to sharpen them all over to 7. I don't mind running them in pine and stuff like that. So if I got a big pine order that was really specific, say floorboards where I got to cut flat, I wouldn't mind running them in that. But in some of the jobs that I have coming up here, I don't want to run them unless I have to. So I want to use up what I got. I have no cost in them anymore, and I wanted to really get that out. So I'm going to do a little saw, and I'm going to do a little video, and we're going to try and get this last big log out of the way. I got one more small log I'll show you. One more big log, one more small log, aside from the butt log that has to be chainsaw milled. I've got that one right there, and I've got a nice little fatty up on the mill. I don't know what it's going to turn into yet. That's what we're doing, and we're just going to add to this beautiful pile of spruce construction lumber. It's just awesome. Also, I almost forgot, I do have a cant over here of his from this tree that I have to cut, and it's behind my lumber bunks here, but it's that spruce cant right there, and I got to cut that down too. So I can do some measurements on that and pull that out, move my lumber bunks out of the way, pull that out, and that's got to get cut too. So it's adding up. It's going to be a decent size order. You know, I think I'm up to 500 now. I think it's gonna, by the time I edge off and cut these last couple things, it's going to be at least 7. Edging off is going to take an hour in itself, so that'll be $100 probably. It's a good size order, but I'm keeping track of it, and it's less than $1 a board foot, even at $100 an hour cutting them. Let me get you set up, and we're going to cut this one. One thing I want to talk about is standardizing your flitches. If you cut all your flitches on inch marks, unless you can't, let's say you're cutting 4/4 material for somebody, and you have to take your flitches at 4/4. In your everyday cutting, if you just take them on inch marks, when you go to edge off all your flitches, if you drop down on inch marks, you end up with 7/8 by 7/8 stickers. And I've already started packing them a pack of stickers here. When I edge through that pile, because I've taken all my flitches at 7/8, which is dropping on inch marks, you're losing the 1/8 inch of the kerf. When I edge off, as long as I drop on inch marks, I end up with stickers as well, 7/8 by 7/8. And also, when you're going around your yard and you're looking for stuff to use to put siding on a barn or whatever, you're not constantly swapping between inch and 7/8. In my estimation, it makes perfect sense to standardize to your 7/8 drops for your flitches unless you can't. Standardize your 7/8 drops. It's easier to keep track of. You know you're at 16 when you come back. You don't have to constantly drop down and check. You know you were at 16, you can drop to 15, or you know you were at 18, you can drop to 17, or you know you were at 10 and you can drop to 9. As long as you drop on inch marks, you'll end up with even stickers, and it's going to be way easier for you to keep track of than trying to constantly cut inch thick stuff and taking out the 1/8 or adding the 1/8 constantly and then wondering where you were. So just try to keep it standardized. When I come down to take my jacket cuts here, as I'm dropping, I'm going to start on an even number. And that way I won't lose where I am as I'm making the cant. Unless you can't do that. And I don't see any reason why you can't. But I start on an even number and I drop on even numbers, end up with 7/8 flitches. And then when I edge them, end up with 7/8 by 7/8. All right, so we'll take this top cut at 19. Looks about right. Looks a little thin, but let's check it out. A little too narrow. Pretty good opening face. I'm probably just going to go ahead and roll it. I haven't done any real arithmetic on this yet. Let's take a look and see what we're going to end up with for a cant here. So it's around 18, which is 70 and 56. It's 136, no, 126. So it's going to be almost a 13-inch cant based on my narrow side. And my opening face is, it's a little over 12. It's okay. I can leave it right there, and let's spin it. So I'm going to take this cut at 17. A little bit of dirt. Almost looks like I need to go to 16, but let's take it here. That was a pretty wide face. Face is probably 16 wide. The log is an odd shape. It's shaped like an oval. We can go ahead and flip it right now. I did cut through some dirt there. That kind of sucks. Looks pretty good. Try and take top off it. Huh, almost right where I am. That's 18. I'm going to drop the 17, take it there. And we'll probably drop the 16 and take a flitch. See, I don't have to think about it, guys, because I'm doing it on inch marks. Let's take a flitch at 16. So right now, I'm kind of in 4 8x8 or 16 4x4 land or 2x4 land. So we'll get her flipped up. We'll see where this thing's going to clean up. I don't really want to go below 16 this way because that gives me a lot of options in what I can cut. I want to flip it up, see where we're going to clean up this height. And then I'll probably cut it either into 4x4s or 2x4s. Let's see what the length is on this. I don't like cutting 4x4s less than 8 feet. It's 7'8". I'm at 18 now. Let's come down to 16 and see what that looks like. That'll give us a pile of whatever we want. It's not going to be good. It's probably going to have to come to 14. I don't even think 15 would be good. Let's try it at 15 and we can maybe steal a flitch out of it. Get our mouth closed down a little bit. If I could end up at 14 by 16, that gives me a lot of options too for 2x4s and then for a whole pile of 2x4s. I'm really going to have to think about this after my next cut. So it almost looks like it's going to want to come to 12. Let's take this one at 14. still got a little bit of wane over there. I'm 16 wide by 14 high, I think. Yeah, 14 high. So I'm 16 by 14. I've got this weird crack down here. I don't know how it happened. Maybe when they sell it. What am I, 14 high? Yeah, 14 high. I think I'm going to take this to 12 to get rid of that crack, and probably take this side to 12 and then cut them 2x12s. And I got a little wane on the bottom too on this side, so I think I'm going to try and roll it to 12. So that was at 14. We're going to go to 13. See how we did with our crack. My pile's starting to get a little uneven. Cut nice and flat. Oh, we got through the crack, good. I mean, technically, we could spin it up and just cut 2x12s all the way down. Let's spin it up. So I think I'm 16 high, and I'm gonna go to 14. And that's all she wrote, boys and girls. Another stack of 2x12s. I'm gonna do a little rearranging on the pile. I need to push the top layer over a little bit. Really, I got one more to cut plus the cant that's sitting over there. And I'll be able to knock that out tomorrow morning, be done with this and get it out of here. One of the logs over there that he has is really small and really crooked. It doesn't make any sense to cut it. So I'm not going to cut that one. This is going to be plenty for him. This is going to be plenty for him. It's going to be a decent sized bill. So one little quick addendum here. After all this different stuff in here, stacks of 1x, 2x, 4x, 6x, everything. Look at how dimensionally stable the top is. Look at how flat that is. How flat it is across here. All that stacked lumber, all that cutting, that's how dimensionally stable that whole stack is. It's amazing. That's pretty good stuff, guys. Sap pouring out of some of these. And my band's perfectly clean. I don't know what to say about the Stellicut bands. That one's never been set. It's been sharpened a few times or a couple of times, but it's never been set. At this point, it doesn't cost any money. They're $40-something a band, and that band has cut probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10,000 board feet. So it's not even a question of cost. It is pushing pretty hard right now. I will say that. I think it could use a set. I think it's relying a little too much on the Stellite because the other teeth that are set, that are supposed to be set exactly to the edge of the Stellite on both sides, I think those have been sharpened down a little bit and they're kind of getting stuck in behind the Stellite a little. So I can tell after a few sharpenings, they start to slow down. You got to push on them a little harder, and I can hear it coming back against the roller flanges pretty good when I'm pushing on it. If you ran that band really hard right now, like in white oak or something like that, you'd probably break it. I am going to check the set on it, and I am going to sharpen it again. I'm going to sharpen them and keep using them until they just won't do what they do. It's just amazing how flat they cut. Absolutely amazing. So I go one more over there, and that cant to mill into whatever it makes sense with that. And I'll be done with this order, and I can load up a trailer for them and have them come over with a trailer and load them up and get it out of here and hopefully get paid for this one. This nice paycheck for a few days' work. So always appreciate the watch. Hit me up with any questions if you want. Like, share, subscribe. I answer everything back. Hopefully you'll see Danny out here later this week. His mom's scared to let him out in the yard right now. But we'll get at it again tomorrow. I'll get myself cleaned up, and we'll be back at it first thing tomorrow. So for now, Pirate Solutions out.